Max Weber on Society-Administration Relationship. Max Weber's ideas on "bureaucracy" need to be placed in the larger framework of his writings on the economic and political structure of society. He traced the impact of religious views on the growth of capitalism and dwelt on the relationship between industrialization and organizational structure. His thoughts on bureaucracy evolved out of the larger considerations of socio-historical forces that led to the growth of complex organizations. Thus, Weber's ideas on bureaucracy form an integral part of a macro view of history and social theory. Weber went back into ancient history in order to find out the chief reasons for the rise of bureaucratic government in the modern state. He observed that the avocational system of Roman administration could be traced to Greek practices. There was no colonial officer in Rome despite the vast Roman Empire. Provincial governors were sent out on an annual tenure supported by a very limited staff. Julius Caesar's effort to create a permanent civil service ended in failure. In this respect, Augustus and Hadrian were, to some extent, successful. A full-blown bureaucracy had come into being by the reign of Diocletian. The fall of Rome was as much due to the burgeoning bureaucracy as to the creeping corruption of the ruling class. The Roman bureaucracy held sway over the weak rulers and rode roughshod over civil liberties. They had compelled imposition of special taxes to oil the wheels of a vast administrative machine. Here, Weber found the clue he was searching for. Bureaucratic administration, he observed, could survive only when there would be a developed money economy capable of sustained economic growth. To quote Weber, the development of the money economy, insofar as a pecuniary compensation of the officials is concerned, is a presupposition of bureaucracy. This was not the case with Rome and her provinces, which were not far removed from a subsistence economy. So, the Romans could not afford a large bureaucratic structure. A developing economy is able to produce a surplus of food and commodities, and this surplus forms the basis of payment of salaries to the members of the civil service. Increasing need for public revenue compels the state to develop a rational system of public finance. To quote Weber, a stable system of taxation is the precondition for the permanent existence of bureaucratic administration. The developed post-subsistence economy may not automatically lead to the emergence of bureaucratic administration, as the rulers in the newly emerging states may still continue to use privilege as a matter of policy and distribute public services on the basis of personal women traditional status. The bourgeoisie wanted security of their newly acquired wealth and property. Stable economy could be guaranteed by stable administration. To the newly emerging middle class, bureaucratic administration with its emphasis on uniform and stable rules and regulations was therefore almost a godsend. In Weber's view, a second prerequisite of bureaucratic growth was the demand of a larger middle class for the benefits of mass democracy, especially for social and economic equality. Bureaucratic development, as Weber observed, was closely associated with the negation of the practice of according special privileges. To quote Weber, bureaucracy inevitably accompanies modern mass democracy. This results from the characteristic principle of bureaucracy, the abstract regularity of the execution of authority, which is a result of the demand for equality before the law, and the principal rejection of doing business, from case to case. 6. The development of money economy and the emergence of mass democracy prepared the ground for the rise and growth of bureaucratic administration. But these, in Weber's view, were not the cause of bureaucratic ascendancy in the modern state. The real causes could be traced to the human motivations springing from what Weber called the Protestant ethic and the spirit of capitalism. According to Weber, the Protestant ethic was instrumental in bringing about a revolution in human existential condition. A radical transformation took place from an insular feudalism to a worldly asceticism. Protestantism engendered a social psychology supportive of rational planning, personal discipline, technology and bureaucratic organization. Capitalism advanced on the principle of survival of the fittest in the marketplace. In the face of fierce economic competition, capitalist enterprises needed a highly efficient organizational form. The bureaucratic principles gave the enterprises the capacity to accomplish economic planning to maintain a stable market for goods and services. It was on the demand of the capitalist enterprises that corporate principles of administration were soon transferred to public agencies. Thus, bureaucratic government and bureaucratic capitalism went hand in hand. It was Weber's contention that capitalism and bureaucratic administration were bolstered up by the psychology of work generated by 16th-century religious radicalism. Early monasticism of the Catholic faith laid stress upon a pope and priests to act as spiritual policemen and to forgive sins. By contrast, the anxiety of worrying about one's fate here on earth, Weber observed, caused the Puritans to work too hard, to devote themselves to a worldly asceticism and to pursue their worldly vocations religiously. The Reformation thus created a spiritual climate for the blossoming of bureaucracy. Weber was interested in a full-blown discussion on bureaucracy as a sociological phenomenon. His thoughts need to be placed in the more general context of his theory of domination. Domination refers to a power relationship between the rulers and the ruled. In any kind of established authority, there exist a number of beliefs that legitimize the exercise of power in the eyes of the leaders and the led. The other important element in this approach is the notion of the administrative apparatus. Domination when exercised over a large number of people necessitates an administrative staff, which will execute demands and serve as a bridge between the ruler and the ruled. The beliefs about legitimation and the administrative apparatus constitute the two important criteria for the Weberian construction of typology of domination. Weber identified three types of legitimation, each corresponding to a particular type of domination. Charismatic. Charisma literally means gift of grace. By virtue of possession of charisma or an exceptional quality, a hero or a leader casts a spell over his followers, who accept his domination because of their faith in the person. In such type of domination, the administrative apparatus is very loose and unstable. It usually consists of the most faithful followers or disciples who play the role of the intermediary between the leader and the followers. Traditional. The legitimation in this form comes from the belief in the goodness of the past, in the appropriateness of traditional ways of doing things. This kind of patrimonial authority receives ready obedience because of a peculiar faith in traditional status and personal loyalty to the dominant person. The administrative apparatus in this kind of domination would consist of the personal retainers, servants and relatives. Under feudal system, the feudal lords, interposed between the king and the people, constituted the administrative apparatus. Legal. Legitimation of legal type of domination is based on the belief in the rightness of law. People obey the laws because they believe that these are enacted by a proper 7. Objective procedure. The typical administrative apparatus corresponding to this kind of domination is bureaucracy. The position of the bureaucrat, his relations with the ruler, the ruled and his colleagues are regulated by impersonal rules. These rules delineate in a rational way the hierarchy, the rights and duties of every position and the methods of recruitment, promotion and other conditions of service. Thus, one notices two major thrusts in Weber's writings that have consequences for society-administration relationship. These are a. An analysis of social conditions leading to the emergence of bureaucracy. And b. A theory of domination or social authority that explains the gradual societal acceptance of bureaucratic authority.